Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and welcome back to the Two Men and a Mic podcast. As always, I am your host, Kyle Hodis, here with my good friend and co-host, Joshua Fisher. Josh, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. We're just starting out making this podcast. It's been a lot of fun so far. I've just really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys for all the support. We got a lot of text, DMs, just saying that we can't wait to listen to the pod or all these funny comments or whatever. So we appreciate the support from you guys. This is something that I just find really exciting for us to make, and glad that we're making some people laugh. So the last episode, if you haven't checked it out, the link is in our Instagram bio at the Two Men and the Mic podcast Instagram. Go check that out. We talked about relationships, and today we're going to be talking about sports for all of you sports guys. You know, I'm a huge sport fan. Growing up, I've played soccer, basketball, I've swam. I'm a little bit more competitive than the Josh over here, but we won't talk about that too much. I took martial arts at a young age. Just played a lot of different sports, and that's really shaped how I've grown as a young man. And I know that you've dabbled in some stuff yourself.
Yeah, for some background about me, if you don't know me as well, I've also grown up playing a bunch of sports. When I was 3 years old, I started swimming competitively, and that ended up being the sport that I stuck with, and I'm now committed to swim at the University of Kentucky. And so sports have definitely...
SEC, University of Kentucky, like SEC guys. SEC.
So sports have definitely been a just huge influence in my life. I mean, I wake up at 3:30 every morning.
I didn't know you could swim at age 3. I'm not going to lie. I actually didn't know that. I don't think most children could run at age 3.
Yeah, that was when I started. So, yeah, I mean, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, so, I mean, it totally just reorganizes everything in my life. And I've learned a lot of great things from it, and, yeah, so sports have just played a massive role in my life. So we thought, why not make a second episode about sports?
Yeah, sports are huge, so we're going to go ahead and talk about that for a bit.
We're making this episode on February 2nd, and yesterday we got big news that Tom Brady retired for a second time.
Hopefully the final time.
This time it seems surreal. Yeah. You know, last time he retired and then unretired to play one more.
Can you really count him out though?
Somewhat disappointing year of football.
I feel like there might be a chance.
There's literally no chance.
I feel like he could.
I
actually did see a post. I was Robert Kraft of the Patriots. He said that they wanted to do everything in their power they could to bring back Tom as a Patriot just so he can finish out the season. So we might see that as something as signing him on like a 10-day contract at the end of next season potentially.
They're one game at Patriots.
After his dynasty with the Patriots, I think it's fitting for him to go back there and retire as a Patriot.
Do you remember why? I don't actually remember. Do you know why he left the Patriots?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't think he should have.
I think
when you see the name Tom Brady, you just think of him wearing a Patriots jersey, and that's like where he became Tom Brady.
How many seasons has he played it?
Wait, he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs, right?
Yeah.
Even though he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs,
he has the other 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he played that longer, but it still feels like just the Tom Brady legacy.
He's a Patriot.
Just kind of went down like he's a Patriot. I wish he'd never left. I wish he hadn't retired and then unretired. I think it greatly took away from his just legacy as the greatest football player ever. And just kind of like the second one, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Tom's done."
Yeah, it's interesting to see how he finally retires, and then you have, it's the end of an era. You obviously have guys like Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, all those guys retiring. In the past couple years.
Our whole childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's gone.
I mean, really, the only one left is Aaron Rodgers, and at that point, it's the question of how much longer do you see? I can't see him playing more than 2 more seasons, maybe. And he also probably won't finish out his career in Green Bay like we've seen him play for so many years.
I've heard rumors of that. I mean, all those people we grew up with. I mean, like, I watch the NFL now, and I'm like, wait, what the heck? Who is the quarterback of the Saints? Like, it's not Drew Brees. What's happening?
Yeah. Speaking of, so Tom Brady's retirement, age 45, right?
Maybe. I don't know. He's old.
I'm 18, and my dad is the same age as Tom Brady.
Well, I think he is 45 because he played 23 seasons.
I just want to say, and I'm not hating on middle-aged white men. I have seen my dad and some of his good friends, who are the same age as Tom, play football and soccer, and it's to be able to push your body, because to be able to push your body to the max as a 40. He's almost 50 years old, and to be able to do that for so long, so well, is unbelievable. So I want to ask this question because Tom Brady retires, and then we have LeBron, who's closing in on passing Wilt Chamberlain as the all-time leading scorer. Is it Kareem?
Yeah, it's Kareem.
Kareem,
It's not
Kareem.
Wilt.
Passing Kareem, all-time scoring. He was 89 points away going into tonight. He had 28, I believe, 26 or 28 tonight against the Pacers. So, but I just want to ask, whose longevity is better? LeBron James, and I'll give you my reasons for LeBron. You look at LeBron, and he is, night in, night out, he takes a much bigger beating than Tom Brady, physically. It's more physically demanding. He plays back-to-backs a lot. He's playing 4 games a week, and basketball's a very physical game. At the same time, Tom Brady has played a game that, while is not as
he doesn't play a position that's as physically.
Yeah, but when
exhausting.
he is hit, it's as hard as you can get a guy. So
how old's LeBron?
38.
Okay.
So
Brady's got 7 years on him. Brady played football. LeBron played basketball. I think there's absolutely, this is literally not debatable. LeBron's a far better athlete than Brady.
Absolutely. And I that's not a question. I just think that.
So then I think in terms of longevity, like, yeah, Brady, I think you just have to go with LeBron. Like, just in, like, when you think of the term longevity in the term, like, in sports terms, like, LeBron just comes to my head before Brady. Even though Brady was absolutely incredible, like, literally played football forever.
Yeah. No, it's both of those guys up till now have spent more than half of their life playing in their pro sport. So
wild.
Respectively, Tom Brady spent 20 plus years playing
years,
NFL football.
Seasons.
That is unbelievable. That is actually unbelievable. Absolutely. He's a 6th-round pick. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. So I have a question for you about that. So obviously, it's not directly like he did this so that he could do this, but Tom Brady divorced his wife. And I know that at least a factor in that was his decision to continue playing football.
Yeah. Was that?
What do you think about that?
Was that before this season or was it 2 seasons ago?
2 seasons.
2 seasons ago. It's unfortunate. Obviously, Tom is calling him Tom first name basis. It's his life, right? Like, football is something that is so important in his life, but it's family, his wife, the children he has. I feel like there's a lot of factors there. Like, it's hard for his kids probably to not see.
Oh no, Kyle, he divorced him like 6 months ago. It was October.
Okay, wow. So it's during the football seasons. I think I know Tom. What he said was that he wouldn't change a thing after he retired most recently, but I feel like at the same time, you look at this season he had, barely made the playoffs, loses in the first round. And do you look at that? Do you really say it was worth it to play 10 more games and have a losing season versus and losing my wife? I personally don't think that. I don't know. I don't love the decision. I think family over football in every circumstance, family over sports in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, we're not the ones to come in here and be like, Tom Brady shouldn't have divorced his wife. Obviously,
absolutely. These are all opinions. Yeah.
We don't actually know everything.
We don't know what goes on
that decision.
Yeah.
But I think that also leads into another good point, and this is something that I don't know if I'd say I've struggled with it, but it's just like been notable for me, is that not. Because I put so much time and effort and I've been successful in my sport, is not having my entire identity in my sport.
Yeah. And
I think that was some. Wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
That was some about what you just talked about with Tom. But, like, it feels like every conversation I have, at least with an adult, is like, oh, yeah, you're that swimmer, right? I'm like, no, I'm that person, Joshua Fisher, who swims.
Yeah.
I'm not just a swimmer. It's something I do, not who I am.
Yeah, I think
that's really important for athletes to notice.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, even I think that's a good way to put it. I can't, I don't have that. We're not on the same level. You're a D1 athlete who's put so much time, effort, and everything you have into your sport. And I love my sport. Don't get me wrong, but I think even as a guy playing high school Division III basketball, I think that all of my basketball career, whether it's AAU or high school basketball, I put a lot of stock into how well I perform, right? Like, if I have an off shooting night, am I going to go into school the next day and people are going to be like, oh, you had a bad night, like you're not that good, or like that. Even then, I feel like the amount of how much you put into your mind about like how well you perform, I just think that there's so much more to life than that, and I think that's important to realize. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
It's definitely true that we idolize sports. I mean, I heard a definition of what idolizing something means the other day, and he said it was just putting more time, thought, and attention into that than God.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think about that. Like, I wake up and swim 2 hours every single morning, and then I go to the gym, and then I'm thinking about it all day long, like how I'm eating, how I'm recovering, like all that thought goes into that, and then I'm like, wow, I'm absolutely not putting that much thought and effort into God.
Yeah.
So it's just something I've thought about recently, like just checking myself on that and making sure like I'm gonna use sports to help me in my pursuit of God, not just overwhelming my life and taking away from any relationship I have with the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of your sport swimming, for those you don't know, I do house renovations for a company during the summer, and the guys I work with, one of them played baseball at Messiah College, the other ran Division I track at Virginia Tech, was a decathlon runner, and he placed top 5 in ACC championships in back-to-back years, I believe. We had an interesting conversation about which sport requires the most athleticism. And Josh, first of all, I just want to ask you about swimming. How much of it is actually athleticism versus skill? And then we can get more into the debate about which sport has more athleticism required. But for a swimmer, obviously you have to be in extreme physical shape. I think that even though me swimming 2 summers, I think swimming required me to be in the best shape of my life.
What it is, swimming's very different than any other sport. Like you use, I mean, it's like going to run, holding your breath and using every muscle.
Yeah.
Like, so it takes a different level of conditioning. But then, so the term athleticism, the definition we're using is a combination of qualities such as speed, strength, or agility that are characteristic of an athlete.
Yeah, most likely combine related things mostly that you see in the NFL.
So notably, that does not include anything to do with skill.
Yeah.
So like,
there's a very
you would
big
split swimming
difference.
Swimming leans very heavily towards like conditioning. So there's a little part of skill in it, in that you like the technique and how efficiently you move through the water. The better you have that technique down, the less effort you have to put in to go the same speed. But when you get to a certain point in swimming, like once you get to like placing well at states or like going to junior nationals, going to nationals, or anything like that, pretty much everyone has come pretty darn close to mastering the technique part of it. So then it really does come down to just who's in the best shape and who's got the best mindset on race day. So then that part of it, I mean, it's athleticism in that it's strength and conditioning, and then it's just a little part of it is the skill with like the little like fine tuning of your start and of your turns and all that. Yeah,
no, definitely. So most athletic sport, what is it? I think first and foremost, I think that the sports that we can rule out, you look at a sport like golf. Obviously, golfers extremely skilled, and that is why golfing is not taking the most athleticism, because you look at golf, obviously the athletic part, hitting the golf ball very far and hitting it like putting. That's not putting. Driving it 250 plus yards. I don't pay attention to golf, so I don't really know the distances. But I feel like golf is mostly skill. How accurately can you hit the ball, and then when you get closer and you get on the green, you're putting. That's all like how well can you place it, because most people can hit a ball 15, 20 yards, but the way they do it is very skill required. And obviously those guys are extremely strong, but golf is a great example of probably like 75% skill, 25% athleticism, maybe even less athleticism.
We're not trying to take anything away from any golfers. What pro golfers do is incredible.
Yeah.
We could never do anything like that. We're just, for the sake of this debate, it's an interesting debate talking about athleticism. That's just not what golf is. I think another part of athleticism, something I've noticed, especially when we've talked about this in our school, the most athletic people, it seems like they're really good at every single physical activity they pick up. Like We play some random weird dodgeball game at lunch. They're good at it. We play basketball. They're good at it. And those are the people that you would describe as the most athletic. So then that leads into it. I think that what I've noticed a trend of, that the most athletic athletes are usually basketball players.
Yeah, I would. I agree. I agreed with that. Yeah. Originally, that was what I thought, and then again, these guys I worked with this past summer, they try to convince me otherwise. Unfortunately, they're terrible at doing that. Very stubborn over here, but I think it comes down between football and basketball.
Yeah.
And which of these sports requires the most athleticism? First of all, it's not. You look at the guys. We're gonna just exclude offensive linemen, defensive linemen, all those positions. I know people that play offensive line, and you guys are not being discredited because you are the strongest players on the field. Very strong players, very good at what you do. But at the end of the day, you guys are not the fastest. You can't jump the highest. You probably are the strongest, but agility is just not there for y'all, like it is the level of skill players. So I think when you look at combine results, you're going to have receivers, corners, safeties being the best at combine-related things. So speed, how high you can jump, and agility. So you look at that, and obviously you have those guys who are very good at what they do. I would say overall football players will be faster than basketball players. But then the real thing I'm thinking of is if you put LeBron or any basketball player and you gave them 8 months to work to be a football player versus taking any football player and giving them 8 months to be a basketball player, which would translate better?
I mean, I think it's got to be the basketball player. Just some of these guys are just freak athletes. Like LeBron, the man is ancient, and he's still out here. Just
didn't realize 38 was that ancient, but all right.
In terms of sports, he is. Yeah,
you're right.
But I mean, he's out there, just like
averaging 30 points.
Yeah, averaging 30 points, and he's not dropping 30 like just shooting the whole time. I mean, he's in the like running through people, running around people. Like,
yeah, he's doing
he's
a lot of paint stuff. Yeah. No, I do think that I think basketball does have the best athletes, and if anyone disagrees with me, feel free to let me know because I want to have this conversation with people.
So in preparing for this episode, we were just talking about what topics we wanted to give our opinions about within sports. And a really interesting topic that I found is what is the most unbreakable record in sports? And so there have obviously been many just incredible records. I mean,
like Brett Favre's 308 interceptions career. That's pretty unbreakable if I do say so myself.
There's some things that you see and you're like, I didn't even know that a human could do that. I mean, for example, you got Usain Bolt running 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. I mean,
light work.
I think he hit a max speed of 26 miles per hour.
Every day.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. Easy. I mean, you don't even think that a human could do that.
Nope, all the time.
And then, like Wilt Chamberlain, he had 100 points in a basketball game. Like,
that happens a lot.
Some high school basketball games don't combine for 100 points. Like both teams. And then averaging 50 points a season. By the way, in that 50-point season, Wilt did not even get the MVP. That's a totally different conversation, but just
he didn't deserve it.
Right.
So I'm just giving my opinions back here. Yeah.
Thanks for the commentary. But there are just some records that you're like, wow, and you're just dumbfounded by, and you have to it just has to come to mind. You're like, will we ever see something better than that ever again? This has recently applied a lot to the swimming world. Michael Phelps, you all know who Michael Phelps is, greatest swimmer ever. He literally, I mean, he dominated every single event. Every time he touched the water, it was, is he going to break a world record? He holds the record for winning the most gold medals at a single Olympics. He won 8 gold medals. Every time he touched the water, he broke a world record and he got a gold medal. That's just ridiculous. Like, no one will ever do that again. But then, you might not know this. Michael Phelps only has 1 world record remaining, and that's the long course 400 IM. He went 4:03.84.
What's long course?
Long course is a 50-meter pool. That's the Olympic pool.
Okay.
That's what international swimming is competed in. When we saw that 4:03 4 IM, we were like, no one is ever breaking that. Like, he was just half the pool length ahead of everyone else, and just no one had ever come close to touching that. Then recently, last summer, we had a French swimmer go. I think he went 4:04.3. So just a mere half second off of Michael Phelps' final world record.
Scarily close.
Yeah, scared it, and that just really kind of shocked everyone. You're like, wow, like Michael Phelps, as incredible as he was, he had this. I think he had the world record in the 4 IM for almost 20 years straight. He may have had it for 20 years straight, and just like the king of swimming is getting beat, and we're getting progressively better at sports as technology advances, as training methods develop more. So just really put into perspective, like even the greatest legends in the sports world will eventually be beat.
Yeah, just like Kareem and the scoring title in the NBA will be beat pretty soon. I know we already touched on this. LeBron, 89 points going into tonight's game, then dropped 26 against the Pacers. So within the next 3 games, I think he will break that record. And Kareem has already said he's very excited for LeBron to pass him, hoping that happens. And, the whole world will be put on alert when that happens. It'll be very exciting to see. But you mentioned the records and breaking records. I have a question for you because you brought swimming. You look at today's society, and unfortunately, a lot of people are becoming what's called trans. And I just want to ask, if a male athlete who is in the 60th percentile of his sport, let's say swimming, and if he becomes a female, identifies as a female, does whatever surgery he needs to become a female, if he goes over to swimming and breaks world records that have been in place for 25 years, and he breaks those records held by women who are biologically women, do you think those records, should that count? Should that count as him, her who was originally him? Should that count as breaking the records?
I think absolutely not. I think that it's so wrong and frustrating to see biological men competing in women's sports.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just totally takes away from the integrity of women's sports. Like the woman who got second was born a woman, is not 6'4", does not have massive feet, massive hands, massive lungs. So those are like objective advantages that the biological man will have over the biological woman. And so she worked her butt off for years and then was beat by things that very few women are 6'4", very few women have lungs that big and have gone through puberty, and like men are naturally stronger than women. And so it's just incredibly unfair and very frustrating for me to see that, especially within my sport, because it's such a recent issue.
I don't think those records should stand if they're broken by a biologically born male. I just think that is... I think it's absurd. I think it's a disrespect to the sports community, sports world. People who have done everything they can, people who train for years at a time, only to see their record being taken by someone that is not even the same gender as them years later. I just think that's... I don't think that's cool. I think that's... those are my personal opinions. I'm not gonna jump too far into that hole, but yeah.
So Kyle, I just had one more question for you before we moved on from the records question. So at some point, obviously, even as training and technology advances, at some point we will reach a limit. Like for running, you will not be able to run 100 meters in 1 second. That will not ever happen. Like humans physically cannot do that. So at some point there is a human limit within sports.
Yeah.
So as we slowly approach that, do you ever think that people will become less interested in sports because we'll become so, like the increments that we'll improve in will be such tiny amounts that it won't even be as interesting to watch? What do you think about that?
I think currently we're in a day and age where sports are kind of at its peak. We're watching pros compete at the highest level. We're watching greatness pass into the hands of this last generation into the future, and I think that the year we're in is just a great opportunity to see sports at its finest. And I think that sports won't be on the decline going into the future in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think that you're right, as we see people start to get closer and closer to the limit of people being physically capable to do something, I think that we'll get to a point when records will only be broken and these feats will only be accomplished when we see when the technology is at its finest, and I think that will happen. But also, when someone comes along and is gifted, is genetically so gifted that they're able to take the technology that's currently had, and their just their whole being is not necessarily better than other people's physically, but they have a better opportunity because of their genetics. And I think that that's the only way we'll see the limits being pushed even further. And I think that once those people come along, then we'll see. I think a good example of that is French pro basketball player Victor Wembanyama. He is, I think he's 18, and he is projected to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft this coming season. 7'4".
Yeah.
People, LeBron James, Kevin Durant are calling him a freak and an alien, and the way he is, played is just unbelievable. The skill set he has and the size that he has makes it so that you can't do anything about it. So when you have someone that is, like I said, gifted physically and genetically to be at a point that not many people can be at, and then given the technology today and the ability to train, I just think that combines for something that you won't see often, and it just gives you not an unfair advantage because they didn't ask for that, but I think it's where we will see the peak of athleticism and the peak of records being broken.
Yeah, I mean we'll get to a point where you'll have to be have the perfect genetic set.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to devote your entire life to it. And then you'll have to just be successful through that. And that's what it'll eventually take to break records.
Yeah,
in
it takes
sports.
a lot of training, a lot of what to do. Last thing I want to talk about, just for sports real quick, is sports postseasons, right? We are currently the halfway point between the conference championships in the NFL and the Super Bowl. And postseasons are always something that are fun to watch. You got
So the entire season leagues.
yeah, you got the NBA finals or in the NBA playoffs. You got the NFL playoffs. You got college football playoffs, bowl games, and then you got March Madness, which is probably arguably the most entertaining postseason. And questions I have on that are, which postseason is the most fun to watch? Like, which do you enjoy the most, and why?
I think, just without a doubt, the one that I enjoy the most has to be March Madness.
Yeah,
just
I agree.
The total chaos that it causes, and just you go into it and really your guess is as good as anyone's on who's gonna win and what's gonna happen. And there has never been a perfect bracket ever.
Yep.
That's how just unpredictable, crazy things happen in March Madness. UMBC beats UVA.
Yeah, we were watching some highlights earlier.
Who would ever think that would happen? Yeah. And people just play on a completely different level. I mean, Kyle and I went through earlier. We watched a half-hour video of March Madness highlights. I mean, there'd be crazy things like this guy made a 3/4 court shot with 0.8 seconds left to tie it and bring it to double overtime.
Yeah, a lot of games going to double overtime. These teams are and you got one team that's supposedly a lot better versus a team that's not as good, and these games are going to double overtime, triple overtime, ending on half-court buzzer beaters. It is the most exciting time for me personally as a fan to watch postseason basketball.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, but all postseasons are good, and then you got the World Cup, the Olympics, which aren't really postseasons, but they are competition at its finest, and just really enjoyable to watch also.
So then also, this has just been an issue in the college football world for a while, because the college football season, you have 12 games?
Yeah, 12 games.
12 regular season games.
And then conference
championships.
Bowl games.
And then everyone just plays one bowl game.
Yeah.
The college football committee just decides you're going to be in this bowl. And It's not even necessarily the first best team plays the second best team and the third best team plays the fourth best team.
It's all committee.
It could be random.
It's based off of who do you think will be a good matchup.
Yeah, and it could be the 25th ranked team plays the 10th ranked team.
And after we saw TCU Georgia this season, I feel like we did not get the best matchups we could.
So then that begs the question, which postseasons actually show who is the best team in that sport for the year?
I mean,
we could start with which ones don't.
Yeah, well, okay.
I don't think college football playoff does.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think that you look at college football playoffs, and you look at Georgia is the best team in college football this year. It's not a question. And then you look at a team like Ohio State, right? And they lose to Michigan in their conference championship game.
They had a flawless season
Yep.
and then lost to Michigan.
Lose to Michigan.
Michigan's one heck of a football team.
Yep. And then Ohio State goes on to play Georgia, have a lead at halftime, and lose on a last-second field goal attempt. Michigan goes on to lose to TCU after beating Ohio State badly, and then TCU goes on to lose to Georgia by 40, 50.
No, it was 63-7. The worst loss in college football.
It's terrible. It's a terrible game.
Every educated college football fan knows that TCU Georgia was not the best team versus the second best team in college football.
I would say that.
And I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think that the national championship game
should be the best team.
Should show who is the best team and who is the second best team, and then therefore who won.
And I think this is the reason why the committee has switched the playoffs from 4 teams to 12 teams going into the future. Because you look at a team, Alabama, right? 2 losses this season. We always day in and day out.
2 losses against really good teams.
2 losses against a really good Tennessee team who was a top 2 team in the country when they were healthy. And who else did they lose to? LSU, who's another really good team. So, Alabama, we know, we don't know for sure, but Alabama would be a much closer game to Georgia than TCU to Georgia. And I think that Alabama, you just can't include them technically because they have 2 losses. They didn't make their conference championship. But a bunch of other teams have 1 loss or undefeated or whatever. And I think the extension to 12 teams in the playoff will allow for more games to be closer, for the better teams to move forward, and for us to get a more entertaining and more competitive college football playoff and championship.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm very excited for when they do switch over to that system.
Yeah, so I would say the college football playoffs are a good representation of something that does not show who the best is. I would also say March Madness is the same thing, considering that
it's wildly entertaining, but it really just doesn't show who's the best team. I mean, it's a 1-loss. Like 64 teams go into it, and you get like one bad game, 1 off night, you're done.
Yeah,
Season's over.
and you look at past teams, and you look
at
like
my own Kentucky Wildcats this past year
lose to
St. Peter's.
And we know St. Peter's is not a top 10 team in that tournament, but they got hot, they got on a run, and they made the Sweet 16, Elite 8, or whatever it was,
which is super exciting, and I think it's great for the sport.
Them, but that's not a good representation of who the best team is.
Yeah.
What will the NBA is a great representation of what is the best team because
MLB, NBA.
Yeah, because all those are first of all, it's your top 6 are in, and then you also have a play-in tournament. So then the play-in tournament works. You have 4 teams. The higher seed, if they win their first game, they're in. If the higher seeded game, if the team that loses, they have another chance to play against a team that won the lower seeded game. The winner of that makes it also.
And then you play like 7 games.
Games are best out of 7 series, which means it's a guaranteed 4 games. And when you're in the NBA and you're on and you see the level of talent those guys have, you're not gonna. If Boston gets swept by the Sixers 4-0, it's not because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown had 10-point games every single night, because you just when you're at that level, you just can't do that as a.
They were
in 4 games.
They were outplayed by
a better team, and I think I think the MLB and NBA Finals or playoffs are a great way to show what team is the best and what team most deservedly is able to win their championship.
Yep.
Well, that will conclude this episode of the 2 Men and a Mic podcast. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you for all the support.
Yes, thank you for all the support. This is our 2nd episode. We're super excited to see the growth just in this weekend. Just all the support, all the people that have reached out and just said that they're excited to listen and having a good time. So thank you guys so much. We will continue to put out new episodes, and we enjoy doing this. We hope you enjoy listening, and we'll see you guys later.